Where in the early hours of the morning, a series of powerful earthquakes have caused widespread damage and killed almost 1,500 people. Many thousands more have been injured and an unknown number of people are still missing. The biggest tremor had a magnitude of 7.8 with an epicentre in Turkey's Gaziantep province, which borders northern Syria. It came just after 4 in the morning local time. But there have been almost 30 other shocks in the region, all powerful enough to magnify the damage. The earthquake was felt 700 kilometres away in Gaza and in Egypt. Well, Turkey has declared a state of emergency. The Syrian government is also taking emergency measures, but the response in that country is being made far more complex by the effects of civil war. Now, while Turkey's allies, including the United States, the European Union and NATO, have offered help, there have been far fewer offers for Syria. In fact, many Western countries have shunned its governments for its actions during the civil war, but they also consider many of the opposition rebel groups to be terrorist organisations. Well, the casualty figures are simply horrific. Turkey's President Erdogan says at least 912 people have died in his country, with nearly 5,400 people injured. Well, Syrian government figures say at least 326 people have been killed. And the White Helmets Rescue Group, which operates in opposition-held parts of Syria, says more than 221 people are known to have died in those areas, with thousands missing and thousands of buildings having collapsed. Those figures, though, are certain to rise. Well, let's cross live now to Lina Sinjar, who's our correspondent in Beirut. And Lina, before we go on to talk about what happened, I believe you felt the earthquake, didn't you?
Certainly, it was really the early hours of the morning here in Beirut. With the difference of timing, it was like around 3 a.m., 3:15 a.m. in the morning, where I felt the whole building was shaking, and items moving, chandeliers moving in the ceiling, and then some stuff like falling on the ground. It was certainly the quickest, the hardest earthquake that we've ever felt in this region. Was a reminder of the explosion in the port of Beirut, in 2020, but far more, in the scale of it, basically. But luckily in Lebanon, there are no casualties or any damages reported in comparison to what we are seeing and, watching happening both in Turkey and in Syria.
Absolutely, Lina. And let's talk about what happened in Turkey, because the devastation there is horrendous.
It is. And, as we talked, just like, in the past hour or so, there were reports of another earthquake hitting central Turkey. So we're still waiting to hear, if it caused any damage. But the aftermath of the early morning one is massive. It hit the province of Gaziantep. Hitting at least 10 cities there on the stretch of the borderline with Syria. Turkey is a country that is prone to earthquake. It's learned how to deal with it by living it over years and years, develop its infrastructure, its response mechanism, its health system. Yet the scale today is like sending made the country call for international support to arrive, and many countries have already announced its readiness to come to Turkey for rescue operation. We've heard an earlier government official saying that Azerbaijan is already sending 400 of its rescue team, experts in rescue operation. Other countries will follow suit, and we will know about them as they're announced throughout the hours of the day. But the images coming from Turkey are, shocking. People had to run, sometimes barefoot in the early hours of the morning at a time of a winter storm that is hitting the whole region. They had to come out in the cold, sitting in their cars, or even standing in the open air to seek shelter.
And let's talk about Syria. Of course, parts of Syria have also been hit. The situation there is a bit more complex in terms of getting information out and indeed help in.
Well, definitely there are information coming out, but scattered between the government and opposition-held area. There are incredible, rescue teams and volunteers who are in, the opposition area who are reporting the situation, but calling it a natural disaster. It's beyond their capacity to help. Don't forget that in northern Syria, right by the border of Turkey, this is an area that was facing heavy bombardment by both government and Russia over the past decade, destroying its infrastructure, destroying its hospitals. And what is left is barely minimum to help the thousands who are in need at the moment. They're calling for aid, they're calling for international communities to support them. But it's hard to tell at this moment if any of the aid coming to Turkey will manage to cross the border and help those in need in Syria, mainly in refugee camps and, poorly, infrastructured area.
Lina, thank you very much.
Greetings to everyone on my daily disaster news channel. The information in the video shows an incident on the 6th of February 2023 in Elbistan, Turkey.
Tam yeni yıkıldı, yeni. Abi vergi dairesi komple gedik. İş Bankası gitmiş.
Fresh earthquake with a magnitude of 7.6 struck Elbistan district in Kahramanmaraş province in southern Turkey. The earthquake occurred around noon on Monday, the 6th of February at 1:30 local time at a shallow depth of 10 kilometers.
Şu an bina çöktü.
If the preliminary data on magnitude at depth were correct, the earthquake was extremely dangerous.
Allah'ım sen yardım et.
Buradan yıkılan yerler var. Çok kötü, Allah'ım yardım et bize. Kimse var mı? Sesimi duyan var mı? Sesimi duyan var mı?
It can cause catastrophic consequences for people and infrastructure, likely resulting in serious and wide-ranging damage.
Bu şeyler paylaşmamız gerekiyor. Mesela şu zamanda
Aman.
Abi dur sakin ol abi. Dur sakin ol abi.
Kenara geçer misin?